Hey there, my name is Landon Bellum. I'm with RE/MAX Professionals and the Griffith Home Team, and welcome to Realty TV. Today we're going to be talking about basically a geographical breakdown here of some really hot spots in the Denver metro area, Sterling Ranch and Roxborough. And we're going to be going over just why you should or shouldn't consider moving there, see if it's a good fit for you. So before we jump into it, I'd like to introduce the guest that I have with me today, Rachelle Abercrombie. Rachelle, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, how long you've been doing it, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, well, my name's Rachelle, and I'm also a realtor with the Griffith Home Team. I've got two little ones at home. We live in Roxborough, and I've been selling real estate for, I think, about 8 years now.
Wow, there you go. That's awesome. So Rachelle's here because she obviously is a great friend of mine and a very experienced realtor on my team, and she lives in Roxborough. And today we're going to be talking about a lot about Roxborough and Sterling Ranch and kind of the differences between the two and the pros and cons and everything that someone would need to know if they're considering actually moving there, whether it's from Colorado in the state or someone from out of state that maybe is looking in and wants to make a move out in that area. And the way that I kind of look at it is Roxborough is almost like Littleton's or like South Denver's hidden gem, perhaps, whereas the Sterling Ranch area might be considered Littleton's newest addition. What do you think of those two breakdowns? Roxborough hidden gem, Sterling Ranch new addition.
Yeah, and I think maybe Sterling Ranch is just more of an extension of Highlands Ranch. And I think that was even almost their intention too, is really to just extend Highlands Ranch west a little bit, whereas Roxborough, a little bit more Littleton's hidden gem. Some things are tucked back in there, Waterton Canyon and those kinds of things.
Right along the foothills. Yep. It's beautiful, and we'll get into that. Now, before we kind of jump into the meat of the episode, wanted to give a little tease towards what I'm sure will be my favorite segment on all of these episodes, which is the Houses of Horrors segment. And we'll save that to last. So this is just a little sneak peek, but the Houses of Horrors segment of these podcasts is just where myself and the guest will go over one of the nightmare experiences that we've been through in the real estate industry. We'll keep everything anonymous, of course. We're not going to say names or addresses, but for a little sneak peek here, I'm going to be talking for my section of Houses of Horrors that I just accidentally sold a meth house. So that's mine. So sneak peek to the end. What about you? What is your Houses of Horrors situation as a little teaser?
Mine's just a funny little story about the little old lady and the Black Widow.
Okay. I like it. That sounds great. Okay, let's get into Sterling Ranch versus Roxborough versus Sterling Ranch. What would you say just the big differences are between the two? Because they're quite different.
Yeah, well, Sterling Ranch, so Roxborough sits between Wadsworth and Santa Fe, south of C470. Mm-hmm. So Sterling Ranch is going to be much closer to C470. Roxborough is going to be closer to Wadsworth. Sterling Ranch is brand new. So all those homes are going to be very new. They are also built very close together. And there's a lot of xeriscaping. And I guess the reason for that is because how expensive it is to get water to Roxborough. And so there's a lot of xeriscaping. Houses are pretty close together, not a lot of land, which unfortunately kind of like ruins your view from your home. Because there's beautiful views in Roxborough, but because everything's so close together, you don't really get to see all of that. But there's not a ton in Roxborough, so Sterling Ranch offers a clubhouse. They offer pools, which if you don't live in Sterling Ranch, you don't get that in Roxborough. So Then if you're outside of Sterling Ranch, you're going to see a little bit more. I feel like the neighborhoods were positioned a little bit better so that you have somewhat of a view, and a little bit more space as well. And I think some smaller neighborhoods too. Like my neighborhood, for example, is like 50 homes. And so you drive into the neighborhood and it's kind of shaped like a dumbbell. So there's a cul-de-sac on each side and that's all there is. Yeah. So a little bit maybe more small town feel on the Roxborough side
versus the Sterling Ranch.
The Sterling Ranch is going to give you, I think, a little bit more of a Highlands Ranch feel.
Yeah, well said. And that's the way that I distinguish between the two as well, because both are like you said, they're very close together. Roxborough and Sterling Ranch are both in the same section of, call it Littleton or unincorporated Littleton or an extension of Highlands Ranch. But the main idea being both of these communities are within a drivable distance to Denver if you need to commute to Denver frequently for work or for other things. But they're both very different and attract different types of people. And so like you said, Sterling Ranch, it is new. It's brand new. There's tons of builders, dozens of builders in there still, where you have Lennar, Richmond American, Meritage, I think just finished up their section. Tons of builders in there building homes, brand new of all different price points and sizes. Whereas Roxborough is pretty much built out until they start adding some new sections. There's not as much building going in within the Roxborough limits, at least as of right now, very little. So if you're looking for something that's maybe a resale or a little bit older or maybe less structure in terms of the rules and regulations, Roxborough's a pretty good choice for that, because you might be able to find a cheaper home or an older home that could use renovations. You can gain some sweat equity that way in that area. Whereas if you just want turnkey and super new with great amenities, then Sterling Ranch is fantastic. So that's kind of how I see the two.
And people don't want the yard to take care of. So for a lot of people, that's a plus. And if not, then, Roxborough is right there too. It offers a little bit more space.
What do you think you would say the top reason is that someone would want to consider moving to Roxborough? Like if you were to name like top three, like, hey, if you're considering moving to Roxborough, here are like the three things that make it worth moving to.
In general, as a whole, or like Roxborough, including Sterling Ranch or not including?
So let's break them down separate. So for Roxborough in particular, and then we'll move on to Sterling Ranch.
I think for Roxborough itself, I think a lot of people want the views. They do want a little bit smaller feel, the wildlife, and then also the proximity to Waterton Canyon, the hiking, the biking, the fishing, Chatfield Reservoir, paddle boarding, boating, all of those kinds, like the very outdoorsy, because it is also, it's about 10 minutes from C-470 on the Roxborough side if you're taking Wadsworth down. So, and then from there, it's maybe another 10 to something like Red Rocks or Morrison and those kinds of things. So
pretty quick highway access, all things considered. With how tucked away it looks on the map, it's pretty quick access. And I'd say a lot of the same things for the biggest appeals or the biggest reasons someone should consider Sterling Ranch are very similar, because you have the proximity to a great state park, Chatfield. There's lake, you can boat, hiking, paddle boarding. Waterton Canyon, like you said, is still close to Sterling Ranch as well. You also get the views. I mean, it's pretty spectacular when you're there in Sterling Ranch or Roxborough for that matter, where, I mean, you're right there on the foothills. I mean, you got a full mountain view from a lot of the houses, or at least from the roads as you're driving around the communities. So, but I think the biggest appeal to Sterling Ranch is that someone should consider if they're thinking about moving there is if you want the newest neighborhood, the newest community feel, something that's just starting and becoming huge, one of the big neighborhoods that will be considered going forward in the South Denver area, Sterling Ranch is really one of the best there.
It is, and I think a lot of people who live in Highlands Ranch and maybe they're looking to move up, upgrade a little bit, I think a lot of them do come into Sterling Ranch. And a lot of that is Sterling Ranch feeds into the Thunder Ridge.
Yeah.
So it's a Thunder Ridge feeder. So they're not taking their kids out from, the middle school or high school that they're going to go to.
A new house and a new community, but your kids are still going to the same schools that they were going to.
And Highlands Ranch is built out, right? There's not a lot of building happening right there in Highlands Ranch. So Sterling Ranch is kind of, if you want new, I think that's their option, unless they're
It's almost like Sterling, well, you even alluded to this at the beginning. Sterling Ranch is what Highlands Ranch was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And now Highlands Ranch is pretty much fully built out. All the homes that were the biggest, best homes in the South Denver suburbs are now 20 years old, 25, 30 years old, outdated, needing love, starting, so it's kind of the revamped section. You get all the benefits, or a lot of the benefits that you do in Highlands Ranch in Sterling Ranch now. Yeah. But also, so you mentioned schools. We can talk about some of the pitfalls, perhaps, of living in Roxborough and Sterling Ranch, which you've probably experienced firsthand living there, is there's not much there yet in terms of schools, retail, commerce, shopping. Why don't you tell us about how your experience has been living there with that?
So Roxborough has one elementary school split into 2 buildings. So there's preschool through 2nd grade in one building, and then 3 through 6 in another building. This will be the last year that there's 6th grade in elementary school in Highlands Ranch. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes with that elementary school with the intermediate. But they're in separate buildings, and so they're not close. They're about a mile away, and you have to cross Rampart as well. So
the 2 separate buildings are, I did not realize that.
Yeah. So the primary's on the west side of Rampart Range Road, and the intermediate's on the east side. And they're about a mile down the road as well.
Which sounds incredibly inconvenient.
Especially if you have 2 kids.
2 kids. It sounds like you're familiar.
So my kids actually don't go to Roxborough, and
that's why.
And that's a big reason. Yes. Yeah. Also, they don't get out until 4:00, and so I was just like, oh man, they don't start school until after 9, and then we don't get out until after 4, and Roxborough is also far from a lot of things. So when I'm thinking, how are we going to get to gymnastics class or whatever it is when we don't even get out till 4? We got to drive 20 minutes somewhere, wherever we're going, and then back, and then when we do dinner and all those things. But so that's for now. I believe Sterling Ranch will have an elementary school in the next 2 to 3 years. So that will help. Right now, the class sizes are just big, and there's a lot. I think, I'm not entirely sure, but I believe that there were 5 kindergarten classes at the primary in Roxborough. So we ended up at a different school totally by accident.
Sure.
My oldest didn't get into preschool at Roxborough because it was full, of course. And the kids who have older siblings at the elementary school have priority to get into preschool. And so, of course, she was the oldest.
Right.
So we just ended up in Highlands Ranch on accident. We liked it. And I was like...
Great schools over there. Not an issue in terms of the schooling, but in terms of the commute. If you're not somebody who likes to have to drive a lot, maybe not the best fit, because a lot of the schools are out, especially when you get to middle high school. I don't know if there's any plans in the near future to put middle or high schools in Sterling or Roxborough. Probably someday as it continues to build, because there's a lot of space there. But in the meantime, how far is it away from your house to the nearest high school? 20?
Well, the nearest high school is Thunder Ridge, so it's about 15 minutes.
Okay, that's not as bad. Okay,
yeah,
but still 15 minutes where a lot of people, maybe want to live within a walking distance of middle or high school so their kids can walk.
Well, and then also if you're thinking as a parent, it's like, okay, well, my kid is 16 and they're driving to school. They're going to have to jump on Santa Fe.
Yeah, busy road.
Yeah, so there are some.
Yeah,
it will be interesting to see what they do with.
What about, so in terms of just day-to-day shopping and needs, how often can you just stay within Roxborough or the Sterling Ranch area? And how often do you find yourself needing to go out further to get what you need on like a day-to-day or like weekly, just general necessities basis?
There's a Safeway. So there's like a very small shopping center. And in that shopping center, there's a Safeway. There's like a little Mexican food. It's more like Qdoba style. Yep. It's called Rosa's. Then there's an Asian food restaurant called JP's. Yep. There's a Subway.
Okay. We're still on
there's a library.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
There's a library. There's an Indian restaurant that I haven't been to, but hear really great things about, called Saffron.
Okay.
And then there's the Waterton Tavern.
Peanut.
That's all. And Starbucks. So recently, Starbucks. The newest things that we've gotten in the last like 2 or 3 years, and they've been built in the last 2 or 3 years, but it's been a long time since anything new has come along. Mm-hmm. Was the Starbucks. Then we got a Sherwin-Williams.
Yep.
Okay. And then we got a McDonald's. For all
your paint needs.
So McDonald's is now on the corner, so we've got the McDonald's now too. But
well, you know you've made it if you've got a McDonald's in the area, so we are on the map for sure. Yeah.
The Safeway is small. Uh-huh. There's not a lot of people who shop there regularly, so it's not busy. Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing, is like there's not a lot there. Yep. The Safeway is pretty small, so it doesn't really have like all of the things.
Yeah.
So it's not busy. So if you do need to run in and just get something, it's there and it's close. And
but if you need to do busy. Like a full month's worth of shopping, get all the stuff you need.
We're going.
You're probably going, where do you go? Costco?
I'm not a big Costco. I'm like a King Soopers person. So we'll go to, we'll go to, so there's a King Soopers on Wadsworth and Chatfield. That's about 10 minutes away. And then there's another one in Highlands Ranch. So actually during the school year, I go on Fridays to the one in Highlands Ranch to grab groceries on our way home. Because we're over there.
Yeah. Okay, so overall, it sounds like if we were to summarize this section of pros and cons, the pros and pitfalls of living in these two communities, it sounds like, first off, great houses, great communities, really nice place to live, good views, lots of outdoor activities, definitely on the pros side. Whereas on the con side, the location, if you want to be away from Denver, that's nice, but also you're away from, being within walking distance or very close distance to a lot of kind of day-to-day needs, from schooling to shopping and things like that. Restaurants typically have to go out of there for restaurants. You said like 5 and then period. So there's not that much.
Well, a little secret is the restaurants up at the Arrowhead Golf Course.
Oh, okay.
Because there's like a bar and grill and there's a nicer restaurant. So that's like another little secret if you're looking for something kind of like different, but a little like you don't want to go to the Waterton Tavern kind of thing.
Sure.
So that's kind of a nice little secret. And then also I think probably for the families living there, the hardest thing is the after school activities.
Yeah.
And
those are
how are you
pretty
getting
much always
there?
going to be outside of the, so you're having to pick up at schools, whether they're the elementary school in Roxborough area, or you're having to go to Highlands Ranch and then have to come back home and then go back out there again to get to more after school stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot
of sense. And even with my kids going to school in Highlands Ranch, we have that after school activity in Highlands Ranch. And so then what do I do for an hour?
Yeah. Seriously. You don't go back.
Yeah. I'm not going to go back. Yeah. So
that doesn't make sense. So it puts you in tricky spots.
Yeah, it can. I mean, I wouldn't move. We wouldn't move. We love our neighborhood and we love, the bears come up a lot, especially right now.
Crazy.
They're, my daughter actually almost ran straight into one walking out of our garage last week.
Holy cow.
The 2 little baby bears were running between, my husband's truck was parked in the driveway and it ran between his truck and the garage door. And we just walked out and the garage door was open and my daughter was running out to the driveway and it was like, oh, someone's dog. And it was like, no, that's
a big dog. A bear. Like a full-on like black bear with 2 cubs?
There was the 2 baby bears. And actually about 10 minutes before that, a neighbor sent me of the mama bear and the baby bears going down their tree.
No way.
And then pretty soon here they came. And I was like, oh, that's not a dog. That's those bears. So I grabbed her and threw her in the car.
Get inside. We're not going to deal with that. Which I guess some people could see as a pro or a con, because not everybody's going to want to be face-to-face with bears. But a lot of people do move to Colorado or do move out of the city into places like the Roxborough Sterling Ranch area to have more wildlife. And I bet bears, sounds like they're out and about right now, but it's still probably
high. It's usually July and
down.
August. Like, I think they're hungry, they're storing up, and then you don't really see them anymore.
But I'm sure you get a lot of deer.
The deer.
You get a lot of other wild. Do you get elk ever out there? Do you ever see elk?
Somebody was just saying that they saw, we do on Wadsworth, the elk cross Wadsworth, right just before, if you're going north, they cross just before Chatfield Reservoir. And so there's always a sign like, watch out for the elk, because they like to cross right there.
Interesting.
But
that's what you get when you live close to the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. You get those nature experiences that you're not going to get in other places.
Like, just so many trails, or just a little path that's just beautiful, and you can go for a walk or go for a run, or whatever it is. And you might see the bear in the tree, or the deer.
But they're not. It's not like they're actively going out and hurting people or anything. Black bears aren't usually overly.
No,
aggressive. It's not like we have grizzlies.
They seem a little more afraid of us than anything. If they do see somebody, if they do see somebody, they usually like climb up into a tree real fast, and then you just kind of don't know that they're there. But
or your daughter walks out of the garage and almost runs face to face.
We had a bobcat in our yard a couple of weeks ago, and that was he was just hanging out. He was just laying.
Wow.
I went out into the backyard and was like trying to shoo it away. And
get out of here. Didn't care for it.
No, he just looked at me.
No way. Those are usually pretty skittish.
I know, and like they're usually pretty secretive too.
Yeah, you don't usually. Yeah, you're lucky to see them ever.
Yeah. No, he was just hanging out. No problem.
Well, let's get into another section and kind of talk about what I call the MVPs, or the most valuable places or neighborhoods within these areas. You said that you love your neighborhood, you wouldn't leave. What's your neighborhood? What section? I mean, Roxborough and Sterling Ranch could be considered neighborhoods in their own right of Littleton, unincorporated areas, perhaps. But does your little section there in Roxborough have like a name? Or is it just kind of Roxborough?
It's like Roxborough Village Estates. It's small.
You like that small feel?
Yeah, it's just a small neighborhood. I like it because there's not a lot of traffic coming in and out.
Yeah.
So that makes it nice. And if there is,
someone
who it is
there.
Too. Yeah. So, and not every neighborhood is like that, but I would say most often you're kind of segregated, pretty small little neighborhoods.
Well, I think one thing that I really appreciate about both of these communities is that there's something for anyone there. Yeah. Regardless of what your budget is or the size of house that you're looking for, even if you want a little bit of property, there's some options. And that's what I like about it. If you're interested in this area and you like some of the pros and you don't mind some of the cons that we talked about, you can find something within your budget. And the reason I say that is because Sterling Ranch, for example, there's new construction from townhomes to paired homes to, Lennar, for example, has 3-story homes that are like really tall with decks that are kind of in the 700s.
Even the next gen, they have a lot of the next gens over there,
which is nice. Lots of ranches or one-story level homes, plenty of homes, single family homes that are just great size, full finish or full basements. Roxborough, same thing. You've got a wide range of different sized homes that are more towards maybe the starter family or the first time home buyer budget, smaller homes, but you also have larger, bigger sized properties that you could fit a full family in, or if you just like having a bigger house, it's great. But both also have very nice luxury communities too. If you have the budget and you are looking for a luxury property, Roxborough has the Roxborough Park area, which has I was just toured one that was $2.5 million a couple months ago, and it's right there in the middle of the Red Rocks.
Right.
And I mean, your view as you look out the kitchen or go to your deck is just Red Rocks right in front, from all angles. And then you look behind you and you could almost throw a rock and hit the mountains. Incredible.
And a lot of those back up to the golf course, like holes on the golf course.
Yeah. So if you're looking in the luxury market, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million plus, they have that too. They've got everything from, like I said, the starter budget of a townhome to the luxury 3+ million price point. So that's something that I can appreciate there. Are there any in particular, or go ahead?
And different feel too. Like you can be in Sterling Ranch and have a very like Highlands Ranch feel.
Yep.
You can be in maybe a neighborhood more like mine where it's maybe a little smaller feel. Or you can be in Roxborough Park and you have a total mountain feel.
Totally. You're on an acre or two.
Yeah, you have an acre.
Barely
the mountains are like right
you.
there. Yeah, and everybody's kind of like like one home is up higher a little. There's another one a little down low. So it's Roxborough has a lot to offer for sure. There, like you said, there's something for everybody.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Are there any neighborhoods or just subsections of these communities that, like, any names or anything that stand out to you? Like a couple for me in Sterling Ranch, for example, like Solstice is nice, kind of its own separate thing, but within that greater Sterling Ranch area is nice. Prospect Village is kind of a newer one that has just pretty much been finished out over there, where it recently built out. Meritage just finished their, Meritage Homes is a builder. They just finished their new build sections over there. Some areas like, are there any that come to your mind on either side?
There's like Village Circle and Village West. Crystal Lakes is actually, there's a lot of homes will back up to some water and like a path that goes around. Crystal Lakes does as well. And so all these homes kind of back up to like this water and a really nice park. Chatfield Farms, the estates at Chatfield Farms, those are amazing because they're definitely, upwards of 1 million, but they all have some land and they all have a view too. Every single, because they spread them out so much, everybody has a view.
You're not blocking or being blocked.
Some people have a better view than others, definitely, but they're so spread out and they have so much space that, everybody there has a view. That's sweet. That's really nice.
Yeah. And that's the other thing with a lot of these neighborhoods we talked about, where it's Highlands Ranchy, where it's kind of just a sea of production, single family homes. You might get lucky and have the corner lot that's got the full range of the mountains, and then you might get incredibly unlucky. And if there was just one house, I just sold one the other day, one house on Eagle River Street, and one house, like if these guys could just move.
Or if it was like flipped, so the garage was on the other side too, you would have a good view.
Totally.
But, the other thing too, that there's a lot of like horse property out there.
Sure.
And there's even just before solstice, if you're, on Titan and you're turning off as if you were going to solstice, there's a lot of horse property and a little older. Definitely, it's not a development for sure. These are people who bought up some land and built on it. And there's some really beautiful, my aunt and uncle actually live over there. And my daughter has a friend who lives over there too from school. And those are really beautiful properties too. Those properties don't have quite as many of, that is like, they truly have space. They truly have views.
Nice.
Animals, they have their own, like there's a lot, they have chickens. I think there's one house over there, they have goats and peacocks and like all kinds of things.
Fancy.
And they're a little bit more custom built.
Yeah.
They're definitely custom.
Definitely doesn't
custom
feel like
built.
a lot of what we've talked about, where it's more space, more, maybe ranchy type feel, animals. Which is good. And again, like there's something there for pretty much any walk. You just have to be okay with some of the cons that we've talked about. And getting into that, one of the cons that we've kind of skimmed over a little bit because we got a full section on it is kind of the budget breakdown, the cost of living in these areas. Because these areas, when it comes to pretty much everything, are more expensive than maybe your average Denver metro suburb or city or community. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, again, something for everybody.
Yep.
So if you're looking for luxury, you're going to find it. If you're looking for land, you're going to find it, but it's going to be upwards of $1 million.
Yep.
The house is certainly not going to feel, it's not going to be a lot of square footage.
Yeah. When you hear $1 million house, it's not going to necessarily look like $1 million house.
Yeah.
Because the land over there is quite costly. So what a lot of the $1 million budget looks like is going towards the land, and it might be a smaller house or an outdated house. $1 million doesn't go as far as what it sounds like you're saying.
It just depends on where you're looking.
Yeah.
I think that if you're looking in Solstice or you're looking in Sterling Ranch,
Roxborough,
a really similar $1 million home you can find in Highlands Ranch. It's not going to be as new, so the floor plan is going to be different. But if you're looking at square footage and bedrooms and bathrooms and those kinds of things, sure, they're going to compare. And I think that's important too when you're talking about like what are people going to Sterling Ranch for? And I think a lot of it is new and a floor plan.
Yeah. Because
there's nothing you can do about the older floor plans. And I think that the newer floor plans are I think they're really desirable for a lot of people. It's not just the new fixtures or the new paint or carpet or it's a floor plan that you can't change
that
another
stays
house,
fixed for most of the
Yeah. But then you have, you can find the $1 million properties that are much smaller, some really unique floor plans too. I feel like that's like, wow, like this is different, but really cool.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it depends on where you're at, because if you're getting one of those like ranch, a little bit of area there properties, $1 million isn't going to get you as far as maybe you think. But if you're right in the middle of Sterling Ranch and you've got $1 million plus budget, like you're going to have a stellar home. It's going to be a good size, turnkey, ready to go, really nice. $1 million, $2 million plus in Roxborough, that can get you an incredible home with an almost unbeatable view and location. Feels like you're right in the mountains. But I'd say on average, home prices in these two communities are probably on average going to be more than other Littleton neighborhoods and sub-communities. But I don't know if I would necessarily say that on average, these two communities would be more expensive than Highlands Ranch's average. What do you think between the two? I feel like Highlands Ranch still has one of the highest average home price points for South Denver, but I don't know. Things change.
I don't know. Even
because you could look at the statistics last
even
month,
over Littleton,
but yeah,
I don't know. I feel like the Lakewood, Littleton, Morrison area is pretty expensive, and so if you're looking at like Roxborough, right, and Roxborough is just kind of like extending beyond that Lakewood, Morrison, Littleton, and then you look at Sterling Ranch, and that's like extending from Highlands Ranch. I would say that Roxborough, if we're not looking at, I think you have to take out the properties with some land, or maybe more like the mountain properties, like Roxborough Park or the Ravenna, or those kinds of things, and you're just looking at your average, maybe 3,000 square foot home. I think Roxborough is probably a little cheaper.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, Sterling Ranch a little more expensive than probably definitely more than Roxborough. Just with them being so new on average?
Yes. Yeah. Well, you mean like purchase price or all together?
Average home price in terms of for like the average home size. Probably Sterling Ranch on an average, maybe a little bit more than Roxborough. Yeah. Well, I think that kind of sets the tone a little bit. I think you're going to find the majority of homes in these two communities are probably, what do you say, 600s, 700s, 800s. Yeah. You'll find some, like I said, across various price points. You'll get stuff in the 500s. Maybe not as much in the 400s. You'd have to get some townhomes and stuff to get in there. And then, things above it. But on average, just if you're to take a straight average across, it's going to be around there. Now, let's get into some of the biggest, perhaps, things that hold people back from getting into there in terms of financially. Taxes and water. That's usually the complaint that I get when I'm helping somebody look and purchase a home in these communities is, holy cow, is that correct? Why are the taxes so high? Why is the water bill so high? What is going on there?
Yeah. Well, the taxes, especially in Sterling Ranch are high because they have a metro district. So the metro district is included in that. And then water, it costs $100 just to get water to your property.
Yeah.
So
$100 flat, $100 a month.
$100 a month.
Yeah.
Just to get water to your property. So if you left for a month, you're still going to have like a $100 water bill. Yeah. I mean, I guess unless you didn't use any water.
It's just flat. You're always going to
have that. And so whatever water you use on top of that is,
extra. Wow.
Yeah.
So in terms of, average prices of homes, you're a little above the average in the Denver metro area, perhaps maybe a little lower depending on the neighborhood. Taxes, water, these things are more expensive. Now, okay, so I think that gives people a pretty good feel for these two communities and hopefully helps them understand a little bit more about it, what you can do there, what some of the costs are, what opportunities there are. Let's move on to the last section here, and then we'll wrap up the podcast. But let's get into the Houses of Horrors section. So I'll go ahead and start off with my nightmare Houses of Horrors experience of late. So, and you know a little bit about this, but you haven't heard the conclusion of it. So I accidentally sold a meth house. And I don't think that's something that everybody can say, because if you sold it, usually you should know, right? Well, what ended up happening is I helped buyers purchase a meth house, and it ended up going terribly. We didn't know it was a meth house. So I've been working with some good friends of mine. They're incredible, very, very nice people, first-time home buyers looking to, kind of find the right house in Colorado, be close to family, things like that, find a good price on a home, do some little house hacking, rent out the basement kind of thing. So we looked for a while, looked at a lot of good homes throughout the whole state. We even went up to Greeley once to look up there. Yeah. And they ended up finding something that was really nice on the north side of Denver, fully renovated, great price. I remember even telling them, like, guys, this is this whole home is new. It's a new roof. It's totally renovated. It's in great shape. Like, this is at this price, this is a steal. Like, we should move forward with this. There ended up being another offer or two on the table, and we beat it out. We won it, and ended up getting the home, going under contract, getting an inspection on it, appraisal. Everything's good. We close on it. They get the keys. And next thing they know, this nice young couple, they're baking cookies or muffins or something to give to their neighbors. And they go, and their neighbors are like, hey, I feel so, like, I got to tell you, the agent who sold this property, he went and knocked on our door and other people's door on the street and said, hey, don't tell my potential buyers about the meth house. Don't let them know that was here. And so immediately I get a text and a call from these buyers, and they're like, hey, this is what's going on. They went and knocked more doors, got more confirmation about it. And sure enough, I sent them just a cheap Amazon meth test kit. Sure enough, came back positive. I was like, okay, you got to get a meth contractor out here. I think.
Can you look that up?
In terms
to see if it's been.
Yeah. So if a home, here's what happens. If a home tests high for meth, so if you get a contractor out there who has a professional meth test kit, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's say anything above a 4.0 comes back on the test, it's unsafe and not habitable for children. And at that point, the state at any time could come to the house, tape it down, and kick everybody out and say it's not habitable. And that house will remain on a public list on the county or the state site for 7 years. And it's crazy. So at any point, they ended up getting this meth contractor out there, tested like double what it needed to be, double or triple. I can't remember the exact numbers, but way high across the room. So they're like, crap. So they had to get a lawyer involved. They ended up, sending a demand letter to the person who flipped it was also the agent who sold it. So it was a crazy double whammy there. It turned out to be incredibly, incredibly messy. And really sad, because these are first-time home buyers just trying to get in the real estate market. And instead they get this meth house that's going to cost, they got to tear it down to the studs to fix this. That's what happens. It's not an easy fix. In fact, if there was ever a time to fix it and clean it up, it's when you're renovating it. So the dude should have done it. But they pulled police reports. There'd been like 40 plus police calls on the place, homeless people living on the backyard of the property. It was a total, the deeper they dug, the worse it got, the more unsafe and unhealthy it was. Ended up, like I said, getting lawyers involved, and they should be coming to a resolution soon on some mediation and stuff. But yeah, we'll see how it happens. Nothing's come to a resolution yet, so I'm not going to say anything on how it's turned out. But that was insane to be a part of that, and I've tried to help them as best as I could, but it was crazy. Definitely a nightmare situation, and they would agree with me.
Yes,
on that. A perfect houses of horrors.
So
section.
Have they torn the house? Like, have they gotten
the house is
started?
Still there. They're working. They're trying to get, what you can do is rescind the purchase, meaning that the person who sold it to you has to buy it back. So it looks like there might be good news there with that, so that they could get it off their books and get damages paid for. So last I heard, things were good. They had to just go get a Airbnb and just live there while this is all going.
This has been going on for a while.
Yeah, months and months. So like the costs are racking up and the damages are racking up. So they're hopefully they can find a solution. But total crazy scenario.
Wow.
It's been crazy. So wild. Huh. How about you? Let's hear about your houses of horrors story, and then we'll call it a day.
Okay. Well, I work with an investor, and he flips homes. So I have a lot of great stories about some, like hoarders and people living with mice and maggots in the fridge and all of those great things. But this was titled Houses of Horrors. So the story that came to mind was the little old lady and the Black Widow. Okay. So this was an internet lead that came in, and she was a little old lady, like in her 80s, from California. And she had her eye on this building. She used to live here. And she'd had her eye on this building for a very long time. She's wanted to come back to Colorado for a long time. And a unit became available. And so she wanted me to go and FaceTime her through the property, basically, this is all normal right?
Yep. Virtual showings, totally fine. Great.
Yeah. And I think we had like a team meeting at McGregor even. So, and it was downtown. So I was like, I'll just hit it on my way home. Yeah. Well, I get there and I'm like, she's had her eye on this property for a while. This is not a property for an older woman. Yeah. Like, there's nowhere to park. There's a lot of stairs. Like, none of this seems right.
Was there an elevator at least to get up and down?
No. And it's a very, very old building. I think it's on like 2nd and Broadway, but in that area.
Yeah. Oh dear.
And so I just like happened to be on the phone with my husband, and I was like, I don't even know about this. Like, this just doesn't seem right. So you kind of go through this weird like alleyway to get into there's like a courtyard. Yeah. And it's kind of cute, but it's old. But I'm still thinking, this is just not the place for this little old woman. So I'm looking for the property, and there are no doors to like units from outside. And there's like a concrete stairwell that goes down. And that's where I needed to go. So I'm like, again, just not the place for the old lady. So I go down this stairwell, and there's kind of like a railing there so you don't just like fall into the stairwell. And all these lock boxes are attached to the railing. So I have to find the right lock box. Yeah. Meanwhile, there's a Black Widow spinning its web on another one of the lock boxes.
Not the one you had to open.
Not the one I had to open, but like right there. And I was just like, everything about it was like creepy horror movie. Totally. Like, okay, now I have to go down this scary, concrete, dark stairwell. And now here's these lock boxes with this Black Widow. So I get the key out, and I open the door, and I open a door to a very narrow hallway. No lights, because we're like down. So it's almost like a basement. Yep. And so these properties all did have windows, but like a basement does. So they're just kind of like up in the top of the, on the wall. Yeah. Oh, geez. What did you like about this place? I know. It's just long, narrow, dark hallway. And I'm just like, I don't know. So I walk down the hallway, and again, I'm thinking like horror movie, right? Like, don't go in.
The point where you're yelling at the screen saying, this isn't, there's a Black Widow. right on the lockbox to get the key. Like, come on. Yeah.
And so I go down the dark hallway and I open the door to the unit, and I don't know. I got like the basement stairs, the heebie-jeebies, you know, when you're walking up the basement stairs and you're like,
goosebumps.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so I got the basement stairs, heebie-jeebies. I closed the door. I locked it. I got out of there, put the key away. And I did call the lady.
Yeah.
And I believe I was early. And so I was like, I'm just going to go check this out. Maybe I'll video and send her the video or whatever. And I just couldn't do it. Yeah. And so I just got out and I called her. I left. I got in my car and then I called her and she never answered. And I never heard from her again.
What? Yeah. That's crazy. Never heard from her again. She had to go through all that and then never nothing.
Yeah. I've never heard from her again. So
that's the scariest part, is that you put all that time in and didn't get anything out of it.
Well, and that also is sometimes just the way it goes.
That is the way it goes. That's part of that's part of how it goes. So, well, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. By the way, both mine and Rochelle's contact, they're going to be in the description of this. If you ever have any questions or anything about Sterling Ranch or want to hear more about Black Widows, sounds like she's an expert over there. So, but hopefully this episode was helpful, just getting to know Sterling Ranch and the Roxborough areas a little bit better. Tune in to future episodes. Just about to talk with Nick about selling a home fast and for more money, what steps you need to take to do that. And we have tons of other neighborhood and city breakdowns coming. Castle Pines, Castle Rock, Highlands Ranch. We're going to be doing a lot of those and other great things, talking with inspectors, contractors, photographers. It's going to be a pretty cool podcast. So leave a comment if you have any questions or anything you want to pitch in. But thanks. Yeah. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right.